Okay, so there seems to be this weird misconception in the comments section of one of my older videos on this channel about my opinion on the commonly shat on online coding platform called Scratch. If you're unfamiliar with my channel, I've made mostly horrible Minecraft content in the past, at least out of the ones I have public, with the exception of a few outlier videos that have just been random things I found funny, and still find at least moderately funny nowadays, which is why they're still public. One of these videos happens to be a video where I covered absolutely breathtakingly dogshit ripoff games of the Riddle School series that were created using, you guessed it, Minecraft Education Edition. Kidding. It was, of course, code.org. No, not that one either. Surprisingly, there are a lot of really weird websites and applications targeted towards a younger audience of chaps about yay high that try to teach them how to code applications and games using Fortnite terms. Scratch, of course, is usually bunched in with this category, mostly because that's literally what it is. Brain-dead kids moving blocks together to create extremely subpar and boring experiences. So, in orderly fashion, I uploaded this video about a niche website and its use of an even nicher franchise, and of course it is my most popular video to date, because YouTube is f***ing weird like that. Anyways, the video did fairly well, for my standards at least, and ended up reaching some of the incredibly loyal Scratch fanbase, who, of course, took the video at face value and assumed I was pretty much just taking a big fat lard of feces right on top of the Scratch website. There's even this one guy who was so confident in making sure I heard him on his belief that there were some good Scratch games, that he felt the need to comment 3 separate times, just to make sure I heard him. And yes, if you're watching this, you don't need to sleep with one eye open anymore. I read your comment. You can sleep without the overwhelming fear of imminent danger. Now, what I doubt this commenter and a few others expected, I actually agree with this guy. I just probably wouldn't go out of my way to comment it 3 times, but at least he's saying something correct. You go, girl. Believe it or not, I'm not actually very smart, and when I uploaded this video, I kind of didn't realize that I never even really tried to disclaim that this video was mostly satire, and purposefully picking out games from several years ago that were hilariously bad, considering the limitations of Scratch and the internet itself at the time. I even cut one of the games that I looked at in the video originally because I couldn't make it funny enough, which I failed at anyways in retrospect, considering my funniest joke was that my phone kept vibrating and I was too stupid to shut it off. But props to me for at least trying, I guess. Yes, I actually like Scratch. So much so, in fact, that I used to make games on it myself, which weren't god-awful. Not any of the greatest things Scratch has ever been graced with, but I worked at it for a couple years, and yeah, it was fun. Take my ass to court, I don't care. I don't really do it much anymore since I just don't have the time for it. I mean, I can hardly even make time to record atrociously low quality videos for my 100 subscriber YouTube channel, so it made sense for me to eventually stop coding on Scratch. In fact, during the recording of the video in question, I was actually working on my own Riddle School fan game myself, which I'm pretty sure I even mentioned in the video itself.
So I'm actually making my own Riddle School game, kind of, and I want to see my competition, so that's what we're going to be doing today.
It was the entire reason why I made the video. I wanted to see what funny games I could dig up from the industrial revolution of the internet, because Riddle School is a relatively old franchise. This old game of mine is still up today if you're really seriously curious about it for some reason, and my Scratch page will be in the description if you want to check any of that out. Again, relatively old, but not the worst you will ever see on this platform. Anyhow, I don't want to beat around the bush anymore. I swear there's a point to this video. You will hear pretty much everywhere on YouTube that this website is horrible, and I want to say that I really just don't agree. Yes, it's easy to make extremely mediocre and not worth your while short games on here that are easy to point at and say, hey, this sucks. But doing your research on this website will tell you that there is significantly more than that on the deeper side of Scratch, featuring users that have been loyal to the site since practically its creation, and the in-depth levels people will go to in order to push this limited coding style to its absolute human limit. No, it's not the most ideal platform to code on, but it's an option that some people genuinely like to take up and explore, and people have. Scratch is so much more than its homepage, and if you know where to look, you can find genuinely impressive and fun experiences. Today, I'll be looking at some of the fun Scratch experiences and users that push Scratch beyond what it's intended for, and what incredible creativity has sparked out of it. By the way, I'm recording this in the middle of editing this video. I just wanted to take this opportunity to brag and say that I saw Limp Bizkit in concert today. Completely unrelated to this video, but I was sitting here thinking, wow, I can really brag about that right now. Before we hop into some neat shit, however, we need to talk about a website I'll be using that helps to properly run some of these games to their maximum potential. If you aren't familiar with the Scratch scene, it's very common that when diving into these fun little internet gems, that Scratch itself will typically be too slow and incapable of running them at an enjoyable frame rate. For several years, this left people in kind of a weird spot, because games were almost literally unable to be impressive on Scratch without having to be dumbed down in order for Scratch to finally run it effectively. This all changed, though, with the introduction of a Scratch mod titled Turbowarp, which essentially compiles all of Scratch's inner excess annoying vomit and snot, and basically gives it the ibuprofen of internet games, JavaScript. Without getting too technical, because I have zero idea how any of it actually works, this critical change allows any Scratch game to run unbelievably faster, and serves as one very important push towards the future of Scratch games. For most of the games I'll show today, I'm going to use Turbowarp to show gameplay, because I want to show how impressive these games are actually designed and programmed without being hidden behind Scratch's minimal barriers. I recommend that if you do try out these games for yourself, which you absolutely should, that you use this website to do so. I'll leave the link in the description. Alright, starting off strong, Griffpatch's 3D Lazer Tag. Immediately, straight off the bat, already looks pretty crazy for a Scratch game. There's a multitude of things you're hit with as soon as you load in. For starters, holy shit, it's 3D! Believe it or not, Scratch developers have found a pretty effective way of making 3D games fully functional and playable in your web browser using the Scratch engine. Or, at least, an effective way of replicating 3D. What you're seeing currently is a fairly accurate recreation I built of what Griffpatch is doing here in this game. While, technically speaking, this isn't actually a three-dimensional field, it uses perspective and a two-dimensional field to create a pretty convincing illusion of it. Kind of like how you can draw a hallway of sorts onto a piece of paper that kind of looks like it's sinking down past the confines of the 2D plane. There's a certain type of coding block that you can add into your studio which allows you to draw lines live within the program while it's running. Griffpatch uses this feature to draw and clone lots, and I mean lots, of lines to match a certain level layout, and make the lines interact and move through key commands that you input. How crazy is that? I mean, once you understand it, the illusion starts to crack a little. By tweaking with the resolution in-game, which is a super neat feature by the way, and allows you to run it on older hardware, such as maybe a Chromebook at your school that was probably bought off of Shein, you can really start to see the lines I'm talking about begin to crack through. A lot of coding and intelligence later, and you have Griffpatch's 3D Lazer Tag. Cool, right? But we haven't even gotten to the actual game itself yet. Basically, it's a neat little first-person shooter program that runs in your browser and is probably unblocked mostly everywhere since Scratch is an educational tool. If Scratch is unblocked, then so is this and every other game in this video. You're presented with a few things on your screen at all times. An FPS counter, a resolution scroll bar, your score counter, your health, and the player counter. Yes, the player counter, as in multiplayer functionality. From anywhere on your country's server, as long as they are either a scratcher on the website or running through Turbowarp, you can connect online and play with other people. I remember that this completely blew my mind years back when I discovered this game, and it's honestly still really impressive and makes a genuinely fun little game to play with your friends. I don't know about you, but it's pretty decently rare to find cool online multiplayer games like this that are easily accessible. And it works really well. While recording footage for this game, I managed to run into a couple of random people joining the game while roaming around and getting footage of the stage. The multiplayer is honestly really well implemented, and this was my first time using it, and honestly adds to the 3D illusion an extreme amount. The entire game is really simplistic, but honestly just fun. It's a goofy little game to mess around with your friends in. It even has a little in-game save chat, which did trip me up a few times, but I figured it out eventually. Overall, the controls are easy, the game runs well, and it has good multiplayer. It's just a well-rounded, fun experience, and I definitely recommend checking this one out. Next up on the list is Undertale Sans Fight Simulator. This game is quite literally what the name entails, an almost identical recreation of Undertale's most iconic boss fight. Now, fair warning, it's been several years since I beat this fight in the original game, so I don't actually get to the end in this gameplay, but make no mistake, the entire fight is here in all of its original glory. The physics engine created for this project is very impressive, and does a great job of creating the feel of the original game. You see, physics qualities and properties in Scratch games are actually significantly more impressive than you'd expect. Scratch, technically, comes with blocks built in that allow you to move sprites on screen with ease, but 90% of them are a complete waste of space for how god-awful they are. Although, at least they attempted to give some sort of easy way to add motion into your projects on Scratch. It was horrible, but it was something. Scratch took one look at the possibility of physics and assumed that their brain-dead demographic wouldn't ever actually get that far, which, in fairness, the target demographic probably didn't. Most likely, little Timmy Jr. opened up a new project, saw that he couldn't make a Mario game by connecting one Lego piece to another, probably got upset for a solid 5 minutes, and then went to suck on a fucking lollipop or something, I don't know. Anyways, this meant that the non-brain-dead Scratch users had to come up with their own physics engine using the 10% of motion blocks that weren't completely asswipe useless. And they actually got really good at it. With the use of a lot of math, a lot of variables, and a lot, and I mean a lot of free time, you can make a very functional physics system. This is something we'll delve a little bit deeper to in the next game, but that's all you really need to understand for this project. It's a lot harder to program things like the blue soul, or the soul being able to collide with platforms or the borders of the play area than what you might expect. But people actually did it, and makes absolutely insane projects like this possible for players to enjoy. This project specifically made this list for many reasons, and that's because it actually stretches beyond just a port of the Sans battle. While this would already be impressive enough due to the fact that this makes a very famous piece of media and video game history available to everyone on a web browser for free, it has even more content than just that. The game actually comes with an entirely original tutorial at the beginning if you choose to use it, which helps make the extremely hard fight a little more comprehensible to someone who may have never gotten the chance to experience Undertale for themselves. This is honestly a very neat addition, and makes the game a little more friendly to newcomers, which is just a genuinely great touch to the project. Not only that, but the game also provides content for more experienced players who are looking for more of a challenge to the fight. First, the game offers different types of game modes which can increase the difficulty of the fight, which is really cool. I didn't bother trying to attempt any of these challenges myself, because I can't even beat the boss normally anymore. Okay, I'm a retired senior citizen of this game, give me a break. But if you think this is something you'd like to take on, it's definitely worth it, and I recommend checking it out. Also, the game provides a couple of custom options to skip certain dialogue if there's specific things you want to leave in, leave out, or if you want none of the dialogue at all. This, honestly, can make playing the boss fight more enjoyable for those who already know all of the lines from several attempts to beat the fight, and are just simply playing for the gameplay. Of course, all of the original dialogue is also in the game, in case you are looking for the complete, pure experience like it is in the official releases of Undertale. Finally, we have the Super Mario Bros. Engine. Holy mackerel. Honest to God, I don't even think I know where to start on this one. I don't know, I guess I could briefly mention the amazing art style. Holy shit, I would eat up an official release of a Mario game that looked like this. The bright paste color palette demonstrates such a unique feel to these Mario levels. It almost feels like it'd be a Game Boy Advance game, in a universe where all of our Mario platformers on the Game Boy Advance weren't just SNES remakes. I mean, seriously, everything is just aesthetically pleasing here, even the underground color palettes and general design. This kind of gives me the same energy of something like Super Paper Mario, or a true 2D rendition of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. God, everything here is just great looking, and I can go on and on about the designs in this game. There are a lot of components when it comes to building platformers on Scratch. Motion, acceleration, gravity, collision. The Scratch engine doesn't give any of this to you easily. Again, Scratch was never particularly built for ambitious projects like this, hence why it can't even run them half the time. So, what's the reoccurring theme in this video? Scratch doesn't outright give you direct means of creating actually cool projects on its platform, so Scratch users turn left instead of right and figure out how to create it themselves. We already covered motion previously, so I'll jump straight into acceleration. Acceleration is pretty straightforward. It contributes to two primary factors in video games, fluent movement and slopes. When Mario begins moving, he doesn't automatically reach his top speed as soon as he takes off. He gradually builds speed to reach it. Similarly, when Mario stops, he doesn't automatically come to a complete halt. These are probably the most simple uses of acceleration in platforming games that you will notice almost immediately. It's what makes it feel like you're controlling something realistic, because this is how physics work in real life. You don't automatically reach maximum or minimum speeds, something most notable in a game like Sonic the Hedgehog, where its main gimmick is built around reaching higher accelerations. But this is really common knowledge, and now we just need to implement it into Scratch, which takes some more explaining. Acceleration is made pretty much entirely possible by the Operators tab, which allows variables and numbers to be multiplied, divided, added, and subtracted by selected values. Since programming physics and real-life physics are just a tad different from each other, means of acceleration are much more predictable and mechanical. Mario's speed values can be more easily comparable to that of a human on a treadmill, rather than a human actually running. When Mario begins movement in a horizontal direction, he starts at a relatively low speed, which on Scratch is a measure of how much his X value is changing per frame. Then, this speed is multiplied by a given number, which in this project is 0.8. Then it takes that speed and multiplies it by 0.8, and so on. This whole process repeats until Mario reaches his maximum speed, which is a value that determines when Mario is done getting faster and is the constant speed value that you will see most often while playing. The maximum speed value is extremely important because, well, if you didn't have one, well, there's a reason that Sonic the Hedgehog fans celebrate mediocrity. This is basically the same concept with vertical acceleration. When Mario jumps, it's in increments of a variable multiplying by itself until he reaches a maximum altitude and falls back down. Because if Mario doesn't have a maximum altitude, well, there's a reason the doodle jump community celebrates mediocrity. Damn it. Okay, with all technicalities aside, just wow. The amount of effort put into this project is just so cool. Even if made from a serious Scratch developer who knows what they're doing and might not consider this much, you can just tell the passion that was put into this. It's just fun. I honestly would love to see a full game made out of something that looks exactly like this. It's the other thing I love about this platform. Everyone who makes something good like this cares about what they're doing and what they're making. Cool shit. Well, there it is. In my opinion, some of the most impressive Scratch creations out there. There are a couple of games that I'm yet to go over because I think they honestly deserve their own videos as they're just so crazy to unpack. And honestly, I need to do my research on because I don't even understand how they work myself. Also, I definitely missed some because these are only some that I know about. If you have any cool recommendations, let me know because I'd love to play them. All three of these projects are core examples of my very point. Scratch is not completely mediocre. There are really passionate people out there dedicated to learning this kind of coding, and extremely awesome projects have come out of it. All of this available in your browser, anywhere you want. The development of Scratch games has never been, and probably never will be, an ideal process. But what comes out on the other end is an incredibly crafted experience that can be made easily accessible to people across the internet. It doesn't happen often that these Scratch projects see the light of day, but when they do, they truly shape to be some of the most impressive online games, development and outcome-wise. Thanks for watching.